just what are your thoughts on Duke's roster, their players, Coach Shire, and the challenges they present your team?
Um, Very, very talented. Um, they play, I think, the perfect system for their personnel. Filipowski, is a 7-foot kid that's equally comfortable handling the ball at the 3-point line or above as he is banging down low. Tough kid. I remember watching him in high school a lot. We were recruiting Terrence Arsenault. It seems like every tournament they played, Terrence's team played against uh, Filipowski's team. I think he had a 7-foot brother as well. It was might be at Harvard, not sure. Mitchell, I think it's a quintessential compliment to Filipowski. Athletic, really good offensive rebounder, aggressive. Has played some three, which just makes him a more difficult matchup, I think, at the 4 because he can drive it. But I think the strength of their team is how they use Filipowski, but also those 3 guards. I think they're unique in that all 3 have point guard backgrounds, but they play them all together, which makes them more dangerous because they can dribble it, pass it, and shoot it and make each other better. All 3 outstanding 3-point shooters. So really good team, but guess what? We're in the Sweet 16. Aren't all of them good?
We'll go to Chancellor Johnson from KPRC TV. Chancellor, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kelvin. How are you?
Good, Chester.
Good. Part of the job of a coach is to pull on the strings of the team and certain players and moments. After the second round game, to evoke Reggie Chaney and have the team respond with the way that they did, what is that feeling like for you as a coach?
Well, there's only one person that has a pulse of the team, and that's the coach. Everybody else is just offering opinions, which most times are empty. But I'm with these kids every day. We're blessed to have a great coaching staff, my assistants. So when I see them in certain moments, you have to know what needs to be said. You just don't reach up and punch in one of your old speeches and say, you know what, let's give number 78 today. It looks like a good time for that one, or number 22. Everything has to be time specific. And I think J1 was feeling a little sorry for himself with his injury. JVA was in the witness protection program the first half. And I felt like I needed to say something that would get them to realize that we're playing for high stakes here. And what they were doing, even though we were up 5, I thought those 2 guys were a no-show. I wasn't really saying that to Jamal or to Emmanuel or to LJ. I thought those guys were fine. Malik, fine. Damian was fine. But those other 2 guys, and they work with Reggie every day. They spent more time with Reggie than the guards did. When we do our position breakdowns, they're together. They know what Reggie was like in those position breakdowns and how he brought it every day. And I always held Reggie up as he and Bryson Gresham were probably our 2 best pick and roll defenders. But Reggie was good at that stuff. But Reggie played with big heart. And that's why I asked him, what would Reggie do? What do you think he'd do second half? And I asked him kind of just like that. I looked at J1, and J1 was closer to him than JVR because J1 was with him longer. But that was it. They needed to have a come to Jesus moment about the magnitude of this next 20 minutes and we weren't going to win the next 20 minutes without them stepping up. Now, JV got in foul trouble, so he was a non-factor. That was unfortunate because some of his fouls I'm not sure were. But J1, though, we can't win without J1. He is as important to our success as anybody. And he had to get out of his little mindset worrying about his injury. You know, I had a kid, Eduardo Nahara, that played with a fracture in his leg at Oklahoma. You can call our trainer Alex Brown and verify that if you'd like. But I've had some tough dudes now, from Eduardo Nahara to Reggie Chaney. And J1 and JVA that first half didn't look like either one of them.
Thank you, Chancellor. We'll go to Gavin. Forgive me if I mispronounced this. Gavin Durkach from the Montana Standard. Gavin, please go ahead with your question for Coach Sampson.
You're on mute, my man, which means you can't hear me telling you you're on mute.
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Great. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time. I've got kind of a two-parter. My first is, you know, when you started your career, Kelvin, at Montana Tech in Butte, could you have imagined kind of what the rest of your career would look like in terms of coaching in so many big games on the biggest stages? Is that something that had even kind of crossed your mind at that time as a young coach, or what's your perspective on that?
No, I didn't. No, back then I thought Montana Tech was the big time. To me, that was my big time. And I've always thought, Gavin, that the most important job you can ever have is the one you have. I share that advice with every staff member I've had. Spend your time worrying about your next job. You're not going to do the one you have. So no, I never thought about a career. I just thought about not getting fired and hoping I could keep this job so I could, pay for my car and my rent and just be able to survive. When Karen and I got to Montana, we were 24 years old. And we didn't have a salary. I had a very small stipend. And I worked every day to keep that job. But I enjoy coaching. That's where your first job, just like everybody that's on this call, look where you are now, but look where you all started. I was no different than anybody else. My first job, I was excited. I don't think I was very good at it. But I got better and better, just like anybody else would. The more I did it, Montana Tech really didn't take a chance on me. I think I was the 6th coach in 3 years. They never had a winning season. So it was like flip a coin, I mean, they didn't really have a basketball tradition there. So they let this young guy take it, and wasn't a lot of wasn't taking a big chance. I was there, so why not let him? And I was the interim coach because the other coach left in December. But I was the 6th coach in 3 years. But it turned out to be the most important job I've ever had because it allowed me to learn from my mistakes in a non-stressful environment. They never had a winning season, so losing was okay. It was expected that they never won. And then our second year there, I think we went 22-7 or 22-8 and won the conference championship, and we were on our way. But I learned a lot of valuable lessons about coaching, about life, about parenting. Lauren was born in Butte. Kellen was born in Butte. So my 2 kids are Butte rats, man.
Yeah, and just a quick follow-up. I mean, Tech had a three-peat this year. It was the first one in the Frontier Conference since you had done it at Tech. I'm curious if you in any way follow along with the program and just what your thoughts are on where the program's at now.
I do. I just had a conversation. I called Adam Hyatt before the playoffs started. I know Butte hosted the district playoffs, which is an awesome accomplishment, by the way. I remember playing Northern State out of Aberdeen, South Dakota at the Corn Palace. Yes, that was the name of the arena, the Corn Palace in Mitchell, South Dakota, with the winner going to Kansas City to the national tournament. I remember playing Valley City State in North Dakota one year. We in the district playoffs. That's after we had won the conference. But I think Adam's taken them to new heights than from when I was there. But I did call him and we had a great conversation. I just told him how proud I was of him and the job he's doing at Montana Tech, and congratulations. Told him to tell the players I'm following them and pulling for them, and hope they do well.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Gavin. We'll go to Greg Bailey with KTRK TV. Greg, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, good morning. How have you seen Emmanuel Sharp kind of grow into this role where he plays with this ultra confidence and performs at such a high level? And it's not just shooting the basketball as well.
Yeah, probably his greatest, the area that he's improved the most in, I think, is his accepting that he's a good player. You know, all these kids come in as talented. You know, they're all the best player on their team, best player on their AAU team. Emmanuel, a high school teammate, was the Mitchell kid at Texas. And Emmanuel's high school coach was his dad, Derek. But Emmanuel played with a certain swagger, but he had such a horrific leg injury that took that swagger away. You know, he didn't play basketball for 18 months. When I say he didn't play, he was physically unable to do anything. I mean, he had multiple surgeries. His last surgery, they put a metal rod in his leg, and even last year, after his freshman year, I think he went home after early June and had to have that metal rod taken out. So last year he was playing with that, and I thought that you could tell that was bothering him during practice some days. But Emmanuel always had that swagger. We just had to get it back. But now he's playing with that swagger. So we're a confident young man. He's comfortable in his own skin. I love his personality. Love his confidence. And I like to see kids being who they are. I always worry about kids when they go quiet or it just seems like something might be bothering them. My antenna is always up for that. But Emmanuel, upbeat, never has a bad day. I have to get on him a little bit about certain things sometimes. He's become a good defender. Not a very good rebounder yet. He's got to get better in those areas. But he's tough. Emmanuel is a tough kid. And he's capable of those nights. I remember last year we were struggling against Northern Kentucky in the 116 game in Birmingham, Alabama. And the guy that kind of got us our separation there was Emmanuel, banging 2 big threes in the second half. But he's going to continue to get better. Emmanuel's best days are ahead of him. He is nowhere near his ceiling.
We'll go to Joseph Duarte from the Houston Chronicle. Joseph, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kelvin.
Morning, Joseph.
Kelvin, the last month or so, I believe, where you had mentioned when you lost some of the guys on the bench, and it would sort of require you to look at things differently on how you substituted and use guys. It's a bit of an unusual circumstance the other night when you lose 4 guys. But did you learn anything from that moment in terms of what guys work best situation in those moments, or was that just, you can't really take anything out of a game like Sunday because you typically won't lose 4 starters in a game?
Yeah, well, yeah, that was the way the game was officiated was tough for us. You know, we played like we played all year, and the way we played all year was we didn't have those whistles. And that's, but sometimes the inconsistency comes from the different conferences. You know, most of the Big 12 officials rotate throughout the league, and you never see a new one. You may have the same guy once every 5 games, but they get kind of a feel for how we're playing in our conference. Then you get out of conference, and you know, the amount of fouls called was you know, we weren't playing any different. It was just officiated differently. But I think that's normal. So it's incumbent upon us to be able to adjust in those areas, and we were trying to, believe me. But our bench is what it is. We have Malik, Damian, Ramon, said. That's it. You know, Ramon 2 years ago was our backup guard. Now he's a backup 4. Said's not ready, but we still play him because we have no choice. Damian is playing better. He's playing more confidence. Malik is by far our best guard rebounder. So Said eats up minutes. I thought Said was really good against Longwood, for instance. The ferocity of Texas A&M on the boards, you know, the game was a little fast for Said. So it may not have been real fair to throw him in there for that. But our bench is what it is. You know, we'll take our guys, and hopefully we're not in certain situations, but if we are, we are. You know, this time of the year, I don't know who started this saying, but it sounds like one of the great sayings ever in the history of the world. It is what it is.
Kelvin, if I could sneak this in, how did you feel Ramon held up the 2 games over the weekend?
Yeah, no, that's a good question because I was concerned about that. Before we went to Memphis, the first time I saw him was that week. You know, I remember when he got on the Alter G, which has the ability to suspend your weight, your actual weight, and have you maybe run at 70% of your body weight or 80%. I remember when he started off at 40%, which means he's actually walking on air. And then they John kept ramping him up to 50, 60, 70. And John came in one day and said, "Coach, I know you're not expecting Ramon back, but I think there's a chance." And but you know, a lot of credit for that goes to John Houston and our training staff. John's awesome. And he's so selfless and doesn't get near the credit that he deserves for keeping our kids healthy or rehabbing. But I think we practiced on Wednesday, and then got on the plane Wednesday afternoon to fly to Memphis. But I just watched him, you know, and he wasn't limping. You know, now when practice was over, he had a big ice bag on his leg underneath his compression tights. Now he's walking around limping on that. But during the course of practice, he got through it. Now I was interested in how he'd feel the next day, which was Thursday, which is the day before we played Longwood. And so I put him through some stuff on Thursday, and then I put him through some stuff on Friday morning over at the University of Memphis before we played. And I really didn't decide to play him until after I saw him on Friday, because I didn't want to put, you know, I'm their coach, but I'm also, you know, a little bit of a bother to these kids with these injuries. You know, I don't mind a kid playing with pain. They all got to learn to play with pain, but I don't want any of them playing with an injury. You know, injuries are, you know, those can grow into something far worse. But pain's an opinion. Some people have a high opinion of pain. Some people have a low opinion of pain. And Ramon's one of them dudes that's got one of those dudes that's got a low opinion of pain. So he was able to handle it. And he's fine. Now, we didn't practice yesterday, but I know he was in the training room. Of course, half the team's in the training room now. If you want to find out where our guys are, run down to John Houston's world. You'll see half the team in either the cold tub or the hot tub or treatment table or compression shorts or compression leggings or whatever they're called. And we're getting some kind of treatment on the training tables. We spend a lot of time in there right now.
We'll go to Chris Baldwin with Paper City, Houston. Chris, please go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin.
Hey, Chris.
JVA didn't really, play in the tournament last year. Is there an adjustment there? And how do you make sure, some of the foul calls don't take away from his aggressiveness?
Well, it's going to take away from his aggressiveness. He's just got to be smarter about his fouls. And we've been working with him a lot with around the rim, being vertical. I invoke two guys, Bryson Gresham and Reggie Chaney. They were awesome at that. But you got to remember, this is his first year. Don't compare him to seniors. Bryson and Reggie were really good in their fifth year of college, in their fifth year of playing. This is JVA's first year. Sometimes we want to compare him to 28-year-olds. That dude just turned 20. He's young. He's inexperienced still. All these moments are new for him. So sometimes we lose sight of the fact that you got four guys out with injuries. How come the team's not as good? Oh, yeah, I forgot you got injuries. I'm not talking about us, anybody. Same thing with JVA. You forget that he's inexperienced, that he's going to have moments. He's going to have some head-scratching games. He's going to have some great games. And that's not going to change. Experience is his greatest teacher. Failure is a great teacher. But every time he's had those moments, he's always bounced back. I think our staff does a great job of watching film, pointing out his mistakes, showing him areas that he needs to improve in, things he should have done, could have done. And JVA has such a great attitude, very receptive, easily coachable kid. So his game the other night, a great teaching moment. I never get highs and lows with any of our players. I understand them as human beings, which is why I'm allowed to coach them the way I do.
We'll go to Chris Gardner with the Houston Roundball Review. Chris, please go ahead.
Coach, what are your thoughts on Duke's Jared McCain? He was you guys recruited him as well. What do you like about him as a player?
I don't think he has any weaknesses offensively. Now he has a great strength in that he is an elite shooter. But Jared, nobody works harder at his game than Jared McCain. He is a hard worker. He is a tough kid. At his size, being able to play at the level he plays at, I think is a testament to his brain and his heart. The two things that cannot be measured. And that's why I think he's going to be an outstanding NBA player. Everything about him screams savvy, basketball intellect, winner, tough, great teammate, great young man, comes from awesome family. I've always been a huge Jared McCain fan.
I have time for two more questions. We'll go one of them to Jason Bristol, please. Jason, please go ahead.
Good morning, Kelvin. You've had so much praise for the Iowa State fans at the Big 12 tournament, and being that the Sweet 16 is in Dallas, what are your expectations for how much the crowd could help you there, or do you not think about that kind of thing at this point?
Heck yeah, I think about it. Of course, if you played Iowa State and Nome, Alaska, they'd probably be there too, but they're unique. But I have something to draw back from with our fans. When we were on our way to the Elite Eight, we played two games in San Antonio. We played Arizona and we played Villanova. And our fans were a big reason why we were able to beat Arizona. Just like Iowa State's fans were a big reason why they were able to win that championship. Fans matter in those moments. And I expect our fans to show up and to show out. I expect to see a sea of Cougar red, and I expect that place to be lit.
We have time for one more question. We'll go to Chris Baldwin with Paper City, Houston. Chris, please go ahead with your question.
Kelvin, Ramon making that, switch from guard to sort of an undersized 4. I mean, what does that sort of show about him? And it seems like he and Kellen, have really built a bond. And how have you seen Kellen, help him?
Well, Ramon has a great bond with everybody. That's just the kind of kid he is. Ramon was one of those guys when I saw him in high school. I thought he was pretty good at a lot of things, really, really good at nothing. And I like those kids. Eduardo Nájera from Chihuahua, Mexico was like that. Nate Erdman from Portales, New Mexico was like that. Now, Ramon's not at their level because both those guys got drafted in the NBA. But those were kids that not a lot of people knew about. And I really like those kids. Ernie Abercrombie comes to mind. He played point guard on his junior college team, and his butt was about 2 axe handles wide. Weighed about 260 at 6'3". Oh, yeah, that's what he was. But I loved him. Wherever the ball was, he was. The ball was on the floor, he was on the floor. He started for me and had 25 points and 22 rebounds against Mississippi State the year they went to the Final Four. Google that. But Ramon's in that class. He's not a great shooter, not a great athlete, not a great passer, not a great ball handler, but he's a great competitor. He's tough. He gives it everything he has. He is a culture warrior for the University of Houston Cougars. And those guys have no position. It meant nothing for him to change positions. He just played at a different spot on the floor for him. He still plays the same way. It's not like we're running plays for him or letting him bring it up to court. He doesn't do any of that stuff. I tell Ramon, and I tell all our kids, accept who you are and be first team all conference in your role. We all have different roles. Jamal's a role player. LJ's a role player. Ramon's a role player. They all have different roles. That's what makes our teams go over the years. Armani Brooks's role was different than Nate Hinton's. Nate Hinton's role was different than Justin Gorham's. LaRon Barnes' role is different than Emmanuel Sharp. I can go back over the 10 teams I've had here, and they all came in wanting to be Kobe Bryant, but they left out being LaRon Barnes and Emmanuel Sharp and accepting who they are. To be the best version of yourself, you have to know what your strengths and weaknesses are. Now, for the first time in their life, when they come to our program, they have somebody that'll tell them the truth. I tell them the truth. You're not a good shooter. If you want to shoot more, get better. You're not a good defender. You got to get better at that. So we break them down and we build them up, and we have what you see now.